Good morning to you. Welcome to the #1 breakfast show. This is K24 This Morning. As always, I'm making sure we get you fully informed as to all that you need to know this morning. Welcome. My name is Jeff Morton.
A very good morning to you indeed. My name is Shiko Kaitani.
And mine is Mungala Mbuvi. Welcome to the show. And like I said, Nojani Kona Homa, and everyone is staying away from me. I don't know why. I had to mic myself this morning.
Right.
I don't know.
You're telling me now? Well, okay, so in that case...
Okay, fine. Now you need to understand why social
Guys, it's just a cold.
Important.
Welcome to the summer.
Yes.
I'm not allowed to join newspaper review today. I have a lot to say.
Yeah, so anyway, good morning, guys.
Good morning. Welcome to the show. Your cold chose a bad time to come.
I know, right?
A really bad time.
Because I started getting the symptoms on Sunday, and the first thing I told myself is, no, I cannot be getting COVID-19, guys.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, and that's what we're going to be talking about as well on the show in terms of just the communication behind it as well.
Right.
Because there's been a lot of false news going on as well, fake news, miscommunication as well. So discuss that and dig a bit deeper, even as we look at the big stories of the day as we get into our newspaper review.
Yeah, and you know, it's unfortunate because there are those people who will always take advantage during such a situation. Some people obviously peddling so much on social media platforms, which is actually wrong. By the way, absolutely wrong.
True. That's coming up on the show from a couple of minutes past 6 up until 7:20.
Okay, and then of course at 7:30 we jump into Interactive, where we talk about some of the trending stories of the day, and of course take a look at what has been happening online the past couple of hours. Start talking to us, of course, as at K24 TV on all those social media platforms.
All right. Then later on, assuming that this school do not bar me from having that discussion from 8 o'clock, this being a Tuesday, we talk about money and finance, and today we want to talk about the value of your business. Do you even know the value? Do you understand what the value is? Have you valued your business? All that is going to be happening from 8 o'clock. I have Abraham Muthoga, who will be joining us for that particular discussion. Mrs. Awinga as well coming through. So do make sure that you tune in, because amidst all this drama, I would like to know, our business is still running. Do stand by for that conversation.
Okay, that's happening from 8 till 9, as you were told. But as always, we have a couple of early birds as well. We'd love to welcome you to the show. As always, let us know where you're getting us from, how your morning is so far. You can get us on social media. You can also SMS us on 21222. That's where we start. Look at some of your salams and then get right into the newspaper review.
Absolutely.
All right, let's see if guys are tuned in.
Yeah.
And if they are they okay? Okay, tuanze na one Eman James anasema, niulize, jana muliosha mikono mara ngapi? I'm so sure 50% of Kenyans waliosha mara tano, 25% didn't care much about corona.
Yeah.
I hope not. I hope 100% of us are actually, we have the information. Mwalimu Dominic Cheriot anasema, morning, tuned in at Kapterakwa, that's in Eldoret.
Yeah.
We also have Mark Afuande, Kisumu County, well represented as usual.
Okay, Beatrice Ngenia says, good morning.
I know she's actually tuned in from Thika.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Hi, Beatrice. Willie Lenge says, tuned in from Homa Bay County. Samuel Nyakwar Oliwen. Hey, present as usual from Kitengela. And then there again is Beatrice Gidhua Wakamasharia. Bahati Nairobi watching. Wahome Gatanga says, Sheikh Karume Road to Court tuned.
All right, Samiwa Mirera in Naivasha as well. Good morning. Mirera, Naivasha present. Joanshi Kigwa, Mama Taraji. She actually recently gave birth. A big shout out to you, Joanshi Kigwa.
Oh yeah, there you can see her baby bump.
Yeah. So congratulations, my friend.
Yeah.
And let's keep on, you know, what told by the Bible, let's multiply and fill the earth.
Oh,
so,
wow.
Karibu tena sana to the show. Right now, we take a short break. However, Jeff Mote does continue with the newspaper review.
Welcome back. Of course, this is K24 This Morning. We'll be looking at the big stories of the day right here as we get into our newspaper review as proper. Keep those tweets coming in. You can also get us on Facebook at K24 TV. Alternatively, you can also SMS us, our line 21222. As always, we'll look at the front pages of our dailies, look at the big stories making headlines, and then get to my panel as we dig a bit deeper into these particular stories, and also the communication behind the handling of the COVID-19 in the country. Let's start off with the front page of the PD. Corona grounds courts as public service suffers. Paralysis is what they're talking about on the front page of the PD. Thousands of litigants stranded, major state functions crippled, boarding schools start closing as impact of virus begins to be felt across the country. That's the story they're talking about right there on the front page of the PD. Also, looking at the virus at a glance, looking at the various action points taken by various departments and companies. Michael Joseph, head of Safaricom, tariffs reduced by telcos to encourage cashless transactions as advised by the President. National Library Services and Archives closed. Lands registries countrywide closed as well. From the government spokesman, Colonel Oguna, testing services extended to Kemri centers in Busia, Kisumu, Kericho, and Kilifi. COG chair, Weekly for Paranya, says also that Kakamega County shuts public morgues, bans funeral disco and public gatherings on that particular one. From the immigration front as well, transportation and movement also being curbed. Alexander Muteshi says immigration services scaled down and he'll only handle emergency cases. On the EACC, Twalib Barak saying scaling down of operations for the next 14 days and suspend services at all Huduma centers. Just some of the measures being taken as we move forward just to create that social distance needed in that particular regard. Some of the issues that you can find, of course, in your copy of your People Daily this morning. As we tell you every single morning, it is Kenya's #1 free newspaper, so get it and get fully informed. Moving on to the front page of the Daily Nation. Coronavirus, unease at the isolation unit. Anxious wait for test results. Patients runs out for those being held at facility after coming into contact with the first patient. Government says 3 more suspected cases yet to be confirmed. That's lead story right there in your copy of your Daily Nation this morning. You can find that right there. In the Standard, looking at the fact that it's not only the virus that's being tried to be managed by the government, but also the economy. Mr. President, time to boost the economy, the Standard says. How to build resilience. Drastic measures announced on Sunday as stalling coronavirus now give Kenyans and businesses a kick to stay afloat beyond lockdown. Some of the issues being tackled on right there can be found in your copy of your Standard this morning, talking about tax incentives, cheaper loans and relaxed loan repayments, stimulus packages as well. Also talk of social safety nets for the time this economy will have slowed down, and that's the big story in your copy of your Standard this morning. On the Star, Matatu's weak link in anti-corona war. That's what they talk about right there. Somalia and Tanzania report first cases of virus infections as well. That's an issue they're talking about. And of course, looking at how to manage coronavirus, COVID-19 anxiety. And that's a key issue that we'll be talking about right here, because not only are we looking at it from a point of view of the virus itself, but the communication behind it and how to get the truths and the untruths that have been spewed right across all the different media platforms. So we'll be discussing that right here on the show. Finally, from page of the Business Daily, Uhuru travel ban freezes 88% of foreign visitors. Shut borders will prompt Kenya Airways to ground flights as hoteliers consider job cuts. So like we said earlier, it's a delicate balancing act that needs to be carried out between managing the disease, managing the virus rather, and managing the economy. We're talking about that right here on the show. Let me get to my panel as well as we do that this morning. It's a Tuesday, and so I am joined by the communication strategist, Mark Bichachi.
Good morning.
Morning, Mark.
I'm good.
Welcome to the show.
Corona is far from me. I'm washing my hands.
Keeping social distance.
And sanitizer is my best friend.
Yes.
Yes, and avoiding seeing you over coffee.
We can do it as long as we're a couple of meters apart. That's what's needed.
Trust me, I am not catching corona on behalf of Jeff. Never.
We're also joined this morning by Professor Matilo Mau. He's the Deputy Director of Kemri, and he's a person who actually has his own hand sanitizer. And like you, Mark, who started using it from the day before yesterday.
Kemrab.
Okay, there you have. And you said you've been having this for
I've
around
carried
a year
for
now.
about a year, but I didn't know corona would happen.
Uh-huh.
But I started becoming suspicious sometime in the past, looking at how the world is.
Right.
I started carrying one of my...
You just decided better safe than sorry.
Yeah. It
Welcome.
looked a bit eccentric at that time.
Yeah,
Yes.
but now everybody is catching on as to why.
Now it's fashion.
Welcome, Prof. Welcome to the show. Let's get into our newspaper review even before we get into matters communication and look at some of the measures being put in place. On the PD's front page, Corona grounds courts as public services suffer right there. We're looking at a scenario where the government is trying as much as possible to make sure gatherings at a minimum as much as possible, making sure they can just put this social distance in place. But the big question, as you can see this and also being asked in the Star, is the economy, Mark. Because even as we do all of this, are we prepared and can we handle the cost of what we want to do?
Well, it's a catch-22 because on one side we can't handle the cost of a lot of us being sick at the same time. We can't handle that cost. It's a lot of money, because if you consider how many people will be hospitalized, how many people will need attention, then that cost will still have to be borne by the state. The alternative is to slow down the economy and then let that cost be borne over a longer period of time. And the good thing with human beings is we will find solutions. We will begin to work from home. We will begin to see how do we participate in industry without doing the traditional things that we're used to doing. For example, right now on this show, we're usually 5 people around this table. We've found a way of engineering, of being able to have a show and have 3 people. So it's better and easier to go this route rather than to have the weight of all of it being borne by sick people. On the flip side, let's also remember that people are a factor of production. So if you've got a lot of people who are sick, not only are they costing you more money at the hospital, but they're also costing you more money in terms of lack of productive labor. So what the government is doing now is the absolute correct thing to do, as the people keep talking about the curve. You know, we need to flatten the curve. And when you understand it, it actually makes a lot of sense. But I must congratulate the government and a lot of the industry leaders for very proper communication. I think a lot of the information that's coming out is sober, it is sound, and it is something that I think a lot of Kenyans need to follow. But the fake news is not helping us a lot.
We'll be talking about that as well, and how to tackle that particular aspect of fake news. Prof, let me come to you, because you said you had an inkling of this a year ago. What got onto your radar and you decided, okay, fine, from now on, I will just carry my own and see how this goes?
So, first of all, just from what you said, one of the things you must realize is that if corona hits us hard, we do not have the capacity in the health system to take care of people who are sick.
Right.
First and foremost, we don't have that. But about 2 years ago, actually, I was looking at the events around SARS coronavirus and MERS coronavirus, those previous things. And I realized that the way humans have handled these sorts of outbreaks tells me that there are gaps in our own behavior that makes us quite susceptible. One of these things is hand washing. We just don't do it. And when you look at what has happened in the Middle East and in Asia around these previous outbreaks, you realize that you have to change your habits. So around 1.5 years ago, I said, maybe when I'm touching surface, I need to be more conscious of what I'm doing when I'm interacting with people.
Right, right. And because you've mentioned 2 other, I mean, when there was MERS and there was SARS, most people thought that was a disease that would affect that particular region. And so that when even the coronavirus came about and we had that it was in China, we still thought it would remain in that particular region. What promoted that particular, very strong and fast spread?
This agent, this virus is very infectious, it's very contagious, right? And then, in the world, people move every day. And one of the things we are now learning is that people can spread it even when they don't have symptoms and signs. They don't have things you can see, and they don't have feelings of being sick. So they can spread. So people who are otherwise healthy will be flying around, will be just interacting with everybody, and they're spreading coronavirus. This is a problem. The world is just a global village. You can move from one place to the other within a day. And this is what has happened to us. In fact, there was a time people were saying, oh, if you look at the world, the red dots are in the northern countries, are in the west, but there are no red dots in Africa. That was just a month ago. Today, now, when you look at it, you realize that it was going to come. It was going to come.
Right. And it's a story, of course, we are keenly following as well, even as you look at that particular issue. So that's what the front page of the PD has this particular morning. When you look at the front page of the Daily Nation, unease at the isolation unit, anxiety just in that particular area. Patience runs out for those being held at facility after coming into contact with the first patient. Government says 3 more suspected cases yet to be confirmed. Of course, this courtesy of Colonel Oguna's presser yesterday. And anxiety is beginning to build now because as you can see how it went from 1 on Friday, 2 on Sunday, 3 more on Monday. When it comes to even managing anxiety levels, what's the best way to go around this and at the same time being transparent? Because even for Colonel Oguna, it's a delicate balance, how to strike that.
I think the first thing that a lot of people need to be told is you are not dying. I know there is a mortality rate of 2%, but it's better to focus your mind on the 98%. And the researcher here will say that when you focus on hope, you're more likely to heal, correct?
Yeah, that's
true. So sometimes it's better to sell the good news with caution. So the important thing to message to Kenyans is, number one, there's hope. Then number two, here's how you make the hope sure. You get, and it's not by buying all the hand sanitizer and all this disinfectant and tissue in the supermarket. It's actually by realizing that the person who's got the cough and the sneeze is the one to wear the mask. Leave the masks to the ones who are sick and the practitioners that need to protect themselves. You can't be living in your 6-bedroom mansion in Runda and then still need the mask as much as the guy who's working at Kenyatta needs the mask. Right. So those are the things that need to happen. So there needs to be hope, then there needs to be caution. Then after caution, there needs to be steps of what to do in case of emergency. That's a communication flow that needs to happen. Right. Because right now, a lot of the bigger problem that we will have is what could be triggered by mass panic. What could be triggered by mass panic, for example, is a lack of supplies. Now, if Nairobi suffers a lack of supplies, it's not the rich who will suffer. It's the people who live day to day, hand to mouth. Those are the people that are going to suffer, and those are the people we need to consider. Because guess what? If you're living in Rundo or in Kileleshwa, you're most likely able to afford a head of cabbage when it becomes 70 bob per head. But there's a guy who's not able to do that. So we need to look at the implications of this beyond the disease. Thirdly, I am a bit worried about the situation within which we are quarantining the 20-odd people at Kenyatta. Because one of the things is, if they're not sick, then they are seeking entertainment. They're seeking for their lives to go on as usual. They want to see their relatives. They want to do all of those things. And that needs to be managed very, very carefully, because you do not want one of them who's in between texting, pulling a runner on you, because as we are told, he can be asymptomatic. Then he runs away. Then before you know it, he goes into those estates where they say if you self-quarantine, you are still in a public gathering because it is that small. So we need to manage their psychology very, very well. I hope they're not just getting medical attention, but they're also getting psychological attention. You know, someone to talk to them, walk them through the process. Tell them that it's important for the country that they stay there, because just one person can spread it a lot. But the other thing that we need to address is religious gatherings. We need to address that, because there's a country, I think it's Malaysia, where half of the cases are from one mosque. You see, just one mosque, half of the cases, more than 300 cases. So we need to address those issues.
Right. Prof, I'll come to you as well, because even in the technicality of this particular virus and how it spreads, as you can see, anxiety comes in, even in a small gathering like this. If Mark sneezes in this particular space and time, there's that tension that comes into the room. So when it comes to the communication points that needs to be put forward, what do they need to know? The
first thing you need to be aware is that more than 80% of everybody who will be sick will be just a bit sick. This is important. They will not need to go to hospital. They'll need to stay at home and prevent themselves from infecting others. They'll just feel a bit lousy, but that's about it. Okay? And then you need to be aware also that very few people will die from coronavirus. Okay? If you look at the diagnoses that have been made, real diagnosis and death rates, you'll see that maybe out of every 100, maybe 3.4%, around there. But if you look at everybody who is infected, even those who didn't get a diagnosis, then the death rate or the mortality is very small, okay, 0.something%, right? So very few people are going to die, although dying is a bad thing anyway. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that people need to be aware that unlike other situations, in this, like cancer, for instance, unlike other situations, in this one, there are things you can do to safeguard your own interests at the personal level. The first thing is that stay away from other people, social distancing, stay away. Okay, not so far away, but, you know, distance.
Right.
Okay. The second thing is that wash your hands. Surely that's something you can do. Okay. You don't need, as a person who is well, to wear a mask. It doesn't make sense. Even from a public health perspective, there are few people who are infected, and there are many people who are well. Now, if the many people who are well go and take the masks, what will happen to those who are infected? They'll have none.
Right.
And then you are not even protected. So it's necessary for those who are sick to wear masks and those taking care of them to wear masks. Okay? So don't panic. And in any case, if you know that there is some power in your hands, then the level of panic is reduced.
Right.
And some of that power comes from being given the right information.
Right.
So information must flow, as you say, and must flow constantly and must be accurate. Okay. Then you need to build some confidence around the services that are being delivered in the hospital, for instance.
Right.
So is there enough space for the few people who will get sick enough to go to hospital? Is there sufficient facilities for them? And also, is there sufficient testing? Okay, these are important things to think about.
Right, and it's interesting you mentioned that, because even as we're looking at social media, some of the concerns that are arising, Prof, is the fact that if, as the statistics say, very few people are dying because of this particular virus, but they say, even as we talk about the numbers, the reaction from the government is totally different. We're being told to stop our normal way of life, yet at the same time you're saying this isn't as fatal as it
Excellent.
seems. Why? Why? You know,
the reason is because, whereas at this moment, we have just about 3 people where a diagnosis has been confirmed, and just about maybe, I don't know, 40 people who have been isolated, or 20 people, it is conceivable that if you don't do what the government has done, within a week, you wouldn't be talking about 20 people. You'd be probably talking about 20,000 or 200,000. This is how severe this coronavirus is.
Right.
So when you see the government taking measures, actually, I'm sure out there in government, there are some people who ask themselves, are we even doing enough? Should we totally lock down the place? This is the struggle they have between total lockdown and partial lockdown.
Right.
Because they understand this virus very well. Yeah.
So really what the government is trying to do is actually save the healthcare system.
In fact, it's even the bare minimum.
That's what they're trying to do.
Yes, it's actually the bare minimum.
Okay, because it's a key issue that we've had on that particular one. But also something you spoke about, even with regards to social distancing, which has now become a lexicon that we're using every single day. Here we are yet again. And some people also want to understand that, because as Mark said, does it mean all my coffee meetings for this week, I shut them down? Or if we are 5 or more, now that means it's a gathering that I need to consider?
Interesting. I saw some Twitter communication from somebody who was in Italy in the middle of the action.
Right.
And they were talking about what they did and what they could have done, what they might have done wrong, and so on. And at the beginning, they were saying, oh, maybe this coronavirus is for those guys out there. Then they're saying, oh, but it's just me and my friend going to the pub to take a beer.
Right.
Oh, until they got caught. The most cautious thing to do would be, don't do that.
At all?
Please wait for a week or 2 weeks so that you see what's happening, so that you have more information. And in so doing, you'll prevent yourself from getting infected, and you'll give the scientists and the doctors and so on time to provide solutions. Right. For instance, people are working on medicines that might have an effect on coronavirus. They need time.
Right.
People are working on vaccines and they need time. If you expose yourself, then you are not giving people time to develop these things.
Right.
Stay away.
Right. Okay, and of course, any questions that you might have regarding any of these issues, please feel free. You can tweet us at K24 TV. We'll be talking about that right here on the show. We'll move it along to the next daily, the Standards front page, and that's the tricky line that the government has to handle right now and walk. The president, time to boost the economy, and it's all about building resilience. Drastic measures announced on Sunday are stalling coronavirus. Now give Kenyans and businesses a kick to stay afloat beyond lockdown. Mark, as we've seen across, different countries, as they come in with the measures they'll put in terms of managing the virus, there's also some sort of stimulus package. Yes. You've seen what happened on Friday with the United States, Britain, what they're doing, Italy as well. And it's the same question I asked you, because yes, we can have a partial lockdown, as Prof puts it, but does that mean now we slow down the economy that was already not moving on all cylinders at that particular point? What does this mean from an economic point of view?
Well, from the economics of it all, first, we need to understand that we need human beings working for us to have an economy that's moving. That's the most important thing. And as such, we need to find a way of recovering lost time. Because I think one of the things that Kenyans need to understand is this thing is not going away in 2 weeks. Let's be clear. Because the borders are not fully locked. It's possible there's a guy who's crossing from Tanzania to Kenya. You understand? So the government has a responsibility to try and keep it at bay as much as it can. But the reality of the matter is it's not a 100% game. And with that, you need to understand and I want to say this very carefully, is the objective is to delay. It is not to stop. Okay? Because you can't stop it. I think that's a fair statement.
That's true.
So the truth is that we want to delay these effects, and therefore in delaying it, you have better management. You know, if an accident happens slowly, you've got a lot more decisions to make than when it happens quickly. Now, that said, it means they need to balance between the slowdown of people's movement and activity and giving them incentive to continue doing business in some shape, way, or form. Which is why it is important, for example, for M-Pesa to say, you know what, now you can transact up to 300,000. What does that do? It allows for a lot of the commerce to go digital, to go online. What that does, it means, is where I was going to buy a shamba from you at 200,000 and I needed to see you so that I can give you cash. Now I don't need to see you. We can do this online and then still seal the deal. Now, if that happens, then the commerce will be okay. There's the other tier of measures that governments do, which is tax incentives. So either reducing tax, delaying taxes, or giving breaks, or giving, what do you call it, bonuses for certain industries that, let's say, will continue to produce or will continue to do something. And that's important because you sort of give them an opportunity to lower their losses. So I'll give you an example. Imagine you've got 1,000 staff who you pay, your wage bill is 2 million. Now, most likely this month you will not fire them because the labor laws requires notice and things like that, which means you'll be 2 million in the hole. Now, if you're 2 million in the hole, plus land rates, plus kanjo, plus VAT, plus all of those things, then it's much bigger. But if you're 2 million in the hole and we remove this government statutory deductions, then you are able to absorb your losses much better. The last one is when finally this thing is over, or we've found a vaccine and it's manageable, then how do you get people doing business quickly? Now, that's where things like lowered interest rates come into play, because access to credit is a key thing. That's where things like spending money, instead of spending money on an airport, which is a specialized thing, is you spend money on the smaller tenders, the guys who supply pens, the guy who supply toilet paper, the guys who supply newspapers, so that you incentivize that side of the economy to have money quickly. So that I've just walked you through what is happening now and what should happen
as we move forward.
Yes.
Okay, we're going to take a short break at that particular point in time. When you come back, we'll also be answering your questions at K24 TV. You can also SMS us on 21222. When we're back after the break, demystifying more that comes in the miscommunication due to the handling of this particular coronavirus. But also a key question that I was asked, because not everybody can manage to keep the social distance when you're in your matatu going somewhere. How do you deal with that moving forward? These are the realities we need to manage as well. And it's on the front page of The Star. We discuss that and more after the break.